And our next reader, Sholeh Wolpé, is a poet, literary translator, and writer in many different genres. She was born in Iran and spent most of her teen years in Trinidad and the United Kingdom before settling in the United States and currently in Los Angeles. Her work includes 4 collections of poetry, a play, 3 books of translations, 3 anthologies that she has edited, including recently Breaking the Jaws of Silence, 60 American Poets Speak to the World. Her recent work includes her translation of Sufi mystic poet Attar's masterpiece, The Conference of the Birds, which was awarded the prestigious Penheim Translation Grant. And her most recent book of poems is Keeping Time with Blue Hyacinths. She's the recipient of the Midwest Book Award, the Lois Roth Persian Translation Prize, a Hedgebrook Women's Residency Award, and her work has been translated into 11 languages. Her play Shame, which is currently in staged readings right now, was a 2016 finalist for the Ashland New Plays Festival and a semifinalist for the Eugene O'Neill National Playwrights Conference. Sholeh's work brims with sensuality, soulfulness, and a deep sense of our shared humanity. Her work transcends the boundaries of language, gender, ethnicity, and nationality, and asks us to consider who we really are in relation to ourselves and to each other. It's my pleasure to welcome Sholeh Wolpé.
I was born in Iran, left at the age of 13 to Trinidad in the Caribbean, an island right off the coast of Venezuela. And then I went to the UK, finished the boarding school, my boarding school there, and finished my high school there, and then came to the United States. I've been on the move for a long time, and I've always been waiting, searching for home. This is about Iran. Pickles and donuts. Cold basements remind me of the dead fruit my mother smothered in sugar. The phallic pickles souring in tight-lipped jars. I kept my school uniform stained, my long hair pulled back tight, my walnut breasts cloaked with baggy shawls. Tell my friend next door about the red jam donut beneath our skirts. Teach her the waist-twisting dance of wrapping childhood's curtain around her body, so soon unfolded like voodoo air from an uncapped perfume bottle. I breathe in books that turn my eyelashes to blue feathers, my eyelids' veins into delicate wing bones that flap and lift, travel me to an island house on stilt legs. She eats the stone pages of an old Quran, comes of age at dusk where bombs fall on paved roads. And the sky rains scalding lava that streams and streams, carries her to the sharp edge of the world. So I go to Trinidad, and I go to a Catholic school. I didn't speak a lick of English. Lost in Trinidad. Sexless and pale, Mother Superior and her sidekick, Sister Anne, watch me. They say, "How do you do?" in clenched mouth British beat, then shepherd me to the school's makeshift chapel, kneel me before a cross and a large framed poster of Madonna and Child. Immaculate Mary, your praises we sing. You reign now in splendor with Jesus our King. Sister Anne bends over my small form, eyes big as the apocalypse, and whispers, "This is where we eat the body of our Lord, drink his sacred blood." She makes me sit on a red-painted cement bench in the yard, hands me a list of English be verbs to memorize. Behaving, blending, belonging. My schoolmates gape at my legs, white as frosting on a bridal cake, trace their fingers along my collarbone, bumpy cheeks, and thick brown eyebrows. I feel like a Persian kebab stick in ugly uniform. The Indian girls won't oil my hair. Too curly, they say. The black girls refuse to braid them, not kinky enough. But the music teacher shows me his teeth, says he will teach me English through songs. In the deserted schoolyard, he sits beside me and sings. Yellow bird up high in banana tree. Yellow bird, you sit all alone like me. When he strums his guitar, his 6th finger wiggles like a fat dangling worm. Giving you a quick tour of my life, I went then to a British boarding school. It was a girls' school, and my father thought I was safe there, and he did not know that down the road there was a boys' boarding school, and they had parties. The prince. The night of the dance, I wore an ankle-length kaftan, hiding my body beneath its airy flow, flat shoes not to be too tall, and my roommate's lipstick brighter than orange juice. He was a prince who could have picked any of the boarding school girls, Susie with one eye blue, full-breasted Victoria, or the girl from India with a waist slender as a drumstick tree. But the 16-year-old Saudi royal asked me for the first dance, then the second, then for the rest of the night as boys and girls disappeared into dark corners while chaperones dozed off in the hall, nipping Hennessy from tiny silver flasks. My prince was shy, but not too shy to slowly drop his hand and squeeze his lips on mine, the knife in his pocket on my groin. On the ride back, the girls taunted me. Camel driver's virgin, imitated my accent, singing, "Don't touch the merchandise," mocked me for pushing away the fetching prince so hard he fell on his ass and twisted his wrist. What did he do? Stick his finger up your... That night, I packed my bag, slipped out just as the sun exhaled its first breath into night, took the first eastbourne rail to London. I hid beneath the beat-up hat, collar pulled up, and by the time the headmaster was informed, called the police and my anxious parents overseas, I was at my clueless cousin's boarding house, nibbling baklava, drinking hot tea from a chipped cup. I shivered beside a coin-operated heater, ate fish and chips on yesterday's newspaper, and read Neruda, Farrukhzad for a week, Tolstoy and Austen. Quietly, I thanked my father for giving me time to strengthen the sinew that held my heart. It rained, and I didn't go out, avoided my big-boned cousin with her roto-rooter tongue and the nose of our grandmother who could smell anything rotting inside the heart. I turned the cracked mirror in my room toward the wall. Someone had scribbled "help" on the back. The rose-splattered wallpaper looked scrubbed with day-old coffee. The lone sofa sagged with the weight of absent occupants, the way my lips still felt the heaviness of that first kiss. In the end, what mattered, I learned, were the smallest blessings. The milk-sweetened tea, or the miracle of scalding water from the ancient bathtub faucet. What counted were my widowed cousin holding her own in a foreign land, and the grit to say no to what is hurled. Words, glances, bullets, all. So, of course, the journey continues, but then I grow up and there is heartbreak and love and things like that. As a grown-up, this is how we love. What they say is true. You can inhale it like a vapor ghost, like a secret kiss in a hotel bathroom, a tongue catching light like rain. Some things mildew too quickly away from the sun. He has a neck pain, she sees ghosts. He wears a lead belt, she builds wings. He says, stick to the facts. She says, the sheets smell of longing. What's buried among their beds' decaying springs? He says, I love you. She says, I love you to something she cannot see in the dark. The chill. On the bed's edge, that precipice of loneliness, sleep withholds its grace. He presses his groins to her ass, his warm hands loving her breasts, the hollow of her waist, her shoulders arching bones. Kisses the nape of her neck, sinks his head in her hair like a man who's seen the dark ghosts of fog. She wants to trample this pain, give him the lions in her throat, the swans in her groin, these wolves in her hips, but her skin cries no, her bones won't budge, and her tongue refuses. When he pulls away, cold air stirs, awakens a chill that freezes and rends their lives into 1,000 irretrievable shards. That was my own poetry. Okay, so I read these to lead to this translation. I translate as a poet. I don't translate as a scholar. I believe in the recreation of an experience, not just words, right? I fell in love with this poet, Attar. Do you all know who Rumi was? Many people, because he's well translated. Sufi mystic poet, very spiritual. Rumi said that Attar traveled the 7 valleys of love while I am still at the bend of the first alley. That's what he thought of him. He was a master. His masterpiece is The Conference of the Birds. I spent the last 3 years recreating this amazing masterpiece. Attar was born in 1145, died in 1220, approximate time. We don't really know much about him. And he was not a court poet. And the Conference of the Birds is the journey of the birds to find their beloved, the great sea morgue. I'll begin with this poem to give you a taste. You who have lost your way from yourself. Everyone asks the exalted one for a home. The best home is closest to the beloved. It's best to live near that great source. Fanciful desires live in the house of the ego, but the only home for sincerity is the heart. The beloved is a grand ocean in which the garden of paradise is but a tiny ball of dew. If you have the ocean, you have the drop. Don't settle for less. Don't seek anything but the ocean. If you can find your way to vast waters, why rush toward a drop of dew? If you can speak heart to heart with the sun, why have a conversation with a dust mote? If you can contain the whole, why trouble yourself with the parts? If you can be a soul, why bother with limbs? If you want to be complete, then look for the whole. Desire all, become all, be all. Choose everything. Choose everything. So, the Conference of the Birds is an allegorical poem, and it's really ultimately about our human struggle, both physical and spiritual. The book begins by welcoming the birds, and then the birds of the world gathered from near and far. They said, no nation is without a leader. Why is it that we don't have one? A body without a head is without direction. Let's seek a sovereign without delay. And so they converged to seek a leader worthy of their nation of birds. The hoopoe stepped forward, hopeful and restless. A wayfarer's cape hung from his shoulders, and the crown of truth graced its head. Schooled in the ways of the path, the bird's perceptions were swift, its spirit attuned to right and wrong. There is a leader for us, I tell you, who lives over there in Mount Qaf. Simorgh is that beloved's name. The leader of all birds, who is closer to us than our own blood veins, yet we stay far from that great one, so very far. The birds fidgeted anxiously now, impatient to gain admittance to the court of Simorgh. Such yearning overcame their spirits that each one stepped forward urgently in love with the beloved, and therefore an enemy of its own self. And yet each bird also feared embarking on such a long and distant voyage. Therefore, despite their eagerness, each came up with an excuse to stay. So, doesn't that sound familiar? We're about to go on a journey and it sounds difficult. We know we must do it, but we all have an excuse. So every bird comes up with an excuse. One has a beloved, one is attached to its gold, one loves its gems, one loves its cage, that's like a palace, etc., etc. But I love this one. It's the nightingale's excuse. The lovesick nightingale stumbled forward, drunk with passion, and so beside itself it knew neither here nor there. The nightingale was a bird whose 1,000 songs contained 1,000 spiritual mysteries. It began to speak, and all the birds fell silent. The mysteries of love begin and end with me. I repeat love's teachings each night. The reed's wails because of what I reveal. The lute's melancholic notes arise from my chants. Gardens are in a riot because of me. Lovers' hearts burn and burst when they hear my songs. So deeply intoxicated am I with the rose that my own existence is nothing to me. It's demanding to be filled with such love. My desire for the slender rose is sufficient. A nightingale has no stamina for one like the great Seymour. For this bird, the love of a rose is quite enough. The rose stuns my heart when she flowers in joyful laughter, for in unveiling her smile, she reveals herself. How can a nightingale survive even a day empty of such a love's happy song? Now, the hoopoe is a sharp-tongued bird, very wise, but answers, "You who love only the face and form, don't be so coy in love's grace. Your love for the rose leaves you torn and frayed by its thorns. You are debased by it as much as you are obsessed by it. Yes, for now the face of a rose is beautiful, but give it a week and look again. Loving a thing of such fleeting loveliness brings nothing to the wise but heartache. Yes, the rose's enchanting smile excites you, but it also sinks you into depression night and day. Give it up, nightingale, for every spring the rose laughs at you, not with you. Have some shame." So the parrot is happy to find eternal life. The peacock wants a home back in paradise. The duck is too attached to water. The partridge couldn't leave because of its precious stones. The osprey is too proud. The ambitious falcon has only its master's approval that it wants, and so on and so forth. And then, they have really amusing excuses. And as we read them, we find ourselves in these birds. So, because of the time, I would love to take you through the entire story. It is so exciting. It is so magnificent. But so one of the things that is beautiful about this work are the parables. Okay? So there is the story of the birds, right? They want to seek their beloved. And the hoopoe instructs them, well, you should do this or that. But he also has all these fabulous, entertaining stories that he tells. And what's great about this method of storytelling, which Attar, by the way, invented, is that you never forget the story. You know how sometimes you're instructed about something and you just forget, you don't really get it until something happens to you? We call it experience. Well, you can look at these parables as experience. You never forget them. So I'm going to read one here, which I think is quite amusing. And I'll read it because when Trump, during his inauguration, he kept tweeting about how many people had come. As far as the eye could see, it just kind of reminded me of the parable of a donkey who farted. Abu Sheikh Bakr of the city of Nishapur set out for the house of dervishes, followed by his disciples. As he rode on his donkey, the animal suddenly released a fart. The donkey's fart changed the sheikh's mood, and he began to cry and tear at his garment. His disciples, and indeed anyone who saw this, found the sheikh's behavior unbecoming of his lofty station. Someone said, "Come on, sheikh, after all, it wasn't you who farted. What's wrong?" He replied, "I was looking up and down, enjoying the sight of my disciples, for they numbered as far as the eye could see. At that point, I said to myself, by God, I am no less than the great, wise Bayezid. I have such devoted followers that surely on the day of judgment, I'll be able to enter that lofty arena with my head held high." Just as I said this to myself, my donkey farted. In other words, to he who boasts in such manner, the donkey gives his proper answer. That is why the fire of shame overtook my soul, my delusions collapsed, and my state was altered. And then Attar follows by this, with this. He says, if you stay steeped in self-conceit and self-delusion, you'll fall far from the truth. Destroy your self-deceit. Burn your pride. If you live in your ego, set fire to your inner being. You who changes color every second. You who hosts a pharaoh at the root of each hair. As long as a single particle of your ego survives, you're a hypocrite 100 times over. If you trust your ego, you're an enemy of both worlds. Annihilate it. And even if you are night passing through night, you'll still transform to light. Don't ever utter I, for in that word calamities lie. Don't ever say I, for you may transform into a devil. The hoopoe then tells the birds about 7 valleys they must cross. The valley of the quest, valley of love, valley of knowledge, valley of detachment, etc. And he talks about these valleys in the most beautiful, beautiful language. In the end, I'm just skipping to the end here. The birds decide to take off. And millions of them, they go on. And they cross these 7 valleys. And God, the stories, the language is so beautiful. It's kind of book you have to keep on your bedside and just read over and over. They reach the abode of the great Seymour. Only 30 birds have survived. And they are finally admitted to the court of Seymour, and they find out that they themselves are the Seymour. Seymour, 30 birds in Persian. Seymour, 30 birds, but you put them together, it becomes the word Seymour. And the great Seymour, as they find themselves, as they find that they are that great one, and we'll end with what the Seymour tells the birds. It's so beautiful. A mirror is the beloved's sun-like face. Look into it and see both body and soul. Yourself, soul and body. You. You have arrived as 30 birds, and in the mirror you see 30 birds. Had you come as 40 or 50, you'd see in the mirror 40 or 50. Though you've come in great number, you still see yourself. You will always see yourself. How can anyone's gaze reach us? Can the gaze of a flea reach the Pleiades? Have you ever seen a gnat lift an anvil, or an ant take an elephant in its mouth? All that you have known, all all that you have seen were illusions, all of it. Nothing you have said or heard was actually so. The valleys you traversed were in me. The bravery you displayed was mine. You were asleep in the valleys of my attributes. You have come and remain 30 astonished birds without hearts, souls, or patience, but I am infinitely better than 30 birds. I am faultless, the absolute 30 birds. Come and obliterate yourselves in me. Become me and find yourselves once more. Like a shadow that vanishes in sunlight, the birds surrendered themselves in the Great One and became utterly nothing. Silence fell as both the pilgrims and their leader became one with the way. The beautiful metaphor of this story is that the beloved, call it whatever you like, God, Dios, whatever, is a grand ocean. And we're all moving towards this grand ocean, metaphorically. And Attar says, it doesn't matter what religion you follow, what background you come from. We are all on a journey. Pay attention to your own journey. Don't look around, meddling in other people's journeys. Some people's journey is longer. Yours may be shorter or longer. It doesn't matter. Focus on your journey and make sure that when you arrive as a pure drop of water, because that's when you join the ocean, become the ocean, know the ocean. But if all your life you're a tyrant, you're a fault finder, you are someone who meddles and doesn't like in other people's affairs, you arrive at the ocean as a pebble, wrapped in your ego. And the ocean never says, no, don't come in. The ocean says, welcome. And you arrive, and what does a pebble do? Sink to the bottom. And you will always only know yourself. I can't think of a worse hell. So when we think of heaven and hell, let's think of it in these beautiful metaphoric ways, right? This is a book that I worked on for 3 years, and it's my gift to you. It is so beautiful. It is not advocating any kind of religion or anything. It's just helping us to rid ourselves of ego with these beautiful stories and language. I highly recommend it that you, after reading the book, always keep it by your bedside. And always, when you wake up in the morning or before you go to bed, just open it randomly and it will speak to you. It'll give you good advice. I'm going to end with a poem in which I'm going to sing. And if you, I had to write it out because it's in rooftops of Tehran, so I know it I've memorized it, but I had to write it down. So if you don't want me to sing, please leave now. I'm not a singer, believe me. I was born on the same bed I later slept in as a child. My aunt, a midwife, a scar the shape of the sun on one cheek, sat at the gate of my mother's womb, sang me into this world. Bia kuchulu, bia azizam, inja kheli qashange, bia bia, bia bia. Bia kuchulu, بیا عزیزم نور است و آواز عشق و ماه بیا 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 قلبمون شکوفه کرده برای تو Tuleshnade bio bio, Tuleshnade bio bio, bio bio, come come bio bio, come come bio bio, come little one, come dear one, it's beautiful here. Come come, come little one, come dear one, with songs, light, a kind moon, and love. Come come. Hearts here have blossomed to receive you. Don't tarry. Come, come. Bio, 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 bio. Come, come. It was this song I followed into this world. Today, yellowed by age and cancer, my aunt's sapphire wings are spread. I sit by her bed, make her promise to come for me when it is my time, to sing me into the other life with the same song.